What's going on, everybody? This is Nick from House of Paint 203, bringing you part one of the Ettin series. We are going to be cracking down on this weird two-headed giant, basically, which is kind of like an orc in a way. It's got two heads, multiple personalities. It wears a lot of little trinkets around its body. It's got some interesting things going on in its braid, obviously carrying two weapons. So going to be a lot of little details that we're going to have to put in this guy here. But today we're going to be focusing in on the base coats. So let's jump right in. As always, want to give a special shout out to friend of the show, Dominic Marriott, owner and founder of Cretin UK, all the way across the pond in the UK. Dominic is a crafter of dice trays, dice boxes, dice towers, dice vaults, you name it. Dominic makes it, and you got to check out his supply so that you can up your game at your gaming table today. Also, while you're here, be sure to like and slam subscribe so that you can stay up to date on all the content that I am putting out there in my quest to paint the manual. And of course, this week we are focusing on the Ettin. Shifting gears as far as sizes go, we have been working with a couple of the big boys, but the young copper and the young gold, and now we are going here into the Ettin, which I'm excited about. I've had this guy on my shelf for several weeks now at this point, in the pipeline, if you will. So excited to get him cracking here. Let's just situate ourselves at the table and we'll dive in on the Ettin. All right, so as a base coat on this model, I'm going to begin with Shadowed Stone from Master Series Paint. And the reason I am going with this is eventually, if you look at the source material here, this is just from the back of the blister pack, what you saw in the monster manual that I had open a couple minutes ago, that, you know, eventually we get him up to kind of like a pale gray. So I want to start off with something a few shades darker. I'm not planning on giving his flesh a wash, so I'm gonna be relying on the tones of his flesh to kind of come out with that. So I am going to be giving his flesh a base coat with the Shadowed Stone. I'm not too concerned about getting his beard braids because I'm going to be going in on the beard afterwards. So right now I'm just going to be getting his flesh. The majority of his body is going to be this pale gray. So again, I got my stone or Shadowed Stone in the palette. So I guess my point is it's okay to prime a model that's already pre-primed. That's what I'm getting at. All right, one layer of that base is done. May have to go back onto it with another layer because it is a little thinner than I would like in some places. I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in on his fur. So as a base on the fur, I'm going to be using heavy brown. By VALLEJO game color. Trying to get in on the texture as best I can. Then we're going to rely on the wash to do a lot of the heavy lifting on the fur there. Some of the larger areas. All right, so first base coat is a little thin on the shadowed stone, so I'm actually going to go in with a second coat of the shadowed stone. All right, so the second base coat is applied. It's looking a little bit better, and I think I'm going to keep going here with his base. He does have an interesting little belt on which he carries some skulls, some bones. It looks like a little pouch over here, so I'm gonna be doing some stuff with that, or at least base coating them right now. And I am going to go in on his beards. I just think I might do the beards now. So for the beards, I'm gonna roll with Abyssal Black. He is wearing a few earrings. He does have some braids on his lower beards here, but I'm gonna actually just paint over everything in black to start off. I'm going to be careful, just kind of stippling using the side of my brush when on the braids that are over his flesh. I'm not super concerned about getting anything on his flesh because we're going to be doing a couple tones of highlights, so majority of this shadowed stone is going to be covered. It's just the areas in the deepest recesses, such as under the folds of his chest muscles and such, that'll be exposed to provide shadow. Because again, I'm not going to be washing his flesh. I am going to be doing some washes on him, but not on his flesh area. So. All right, next up I'm gonna do for this is I'm going to actually give the fur a wash so that it has some time to dry. And I'm gonna be using my Seraphim Sepia by Citadel. Put some up in the pot here. This wash is probably gonna settle in nicely. There's some great texture here in the fur. So I'm gonna just kind of put that all over, let it settle in the recesses. Get it in the back here. Did get some up around his lower back, so I just mopped it up. Give that a chance to dry. For his wooden club, I'm gonna go with Beasty Brown. And I'm just gonna paint a wooden club. And a spiky club here. I'm just painting the wood portion with the Beasty Brown. The spikes or the bones, I'm gonna actually give a separate base. Noticing a little area down on his foot that I just want to touch up. I'm going to use the same base coat. Can't imagine Ettins would really spend a lot of time gathering up different resources or, you know, going for glamour. Pop that on. Let that dry a little bit. Now we can go in here on the bones. Actually, no, I'm gonna go in on the cloth. And by the cloth, I mean the wrappings on his legs. I might go back to heavy brown, which I still have in the palette. All right, we are almost there, man. We're almost there. Using leather brown, a lot of brown on this gentleman. Leather brown up on the wraps. Get this pouch with leather too. I'm gonna go with a mix of skeleton bone by the Army Painter and heavy brown that I already have in the palette. It's a Vallejo color, and I'm going to be using that mixture to paint the bones, mostly the skulls. Because Ettins are just creeps. We got some brass rings on here. That's what I'm going to use for the rings. I'm going to use a brass Vallejo model color. I have no idea what these things are. Give his little weapon up top a base coat of gunmetal gray. also by Vallejo model color. All right, I think that is the end of part 1. Like I said, most of the model is base coated, except for these odd little trinkets on the side of his belt here, so we could take care of that in part 2 once I decide what I want to do with them. But for the most part, we are good to go here. As always, I thank you for joining me. Part 2 will be coming on Wednesday, of course. Information on how to follow me on all my social media platforms is immediately following the video, as is information on how to follow Dominic Marriott of Credit UK. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.